YouTube? Tired Metalhead Weatherman here. Hopefully you guys are doing well. Appreciate the support yet again. Wow, these numbers are crazy to get to 153 before the end of the year. Who knows? Maybe we'll see more. But appreciate you guys again. Just thought I'd put that out there before I get into the video here. We all know what this video is going to be about. We got to address the elephant in the room, and it's this upcoming storm system and huge Arctic polar-esque type cool down that's coming with it. This video might turn out to be a little bit of a longer one because there's a good bit to go over here, and there's even some potential for severe weather, so there will be timestamps in the description, so whatever part may apply to you, feel free to jump ahead to that. That being said, let's get into it here. So we're going to start out by looking at the euro, and we're looking at the Vorticity. And this system, as far as the models are concerned, it's the tale of two models between the GFS and the euro as of right now. GFS and the euro are painting two different pictures. The euro has this hanging a little bit further to the north as far as this system's trek to the east. But we start out pretty much the same over here. We're looking about 45 hours out right now, and here's that cold air and this upper level low becoming closed off, and here's that cold air stacking upon itself. We'll move this along, and slowly but surely that moves off, and then here's another piece of energy coming in behind it, further stacking the cold air and then bringing it down into the central part of the US. Very frigid temperatures are expected here, but it's actually slightly warmer than what the GFS is showing. So we're going to have a little bit of difficulty here trying to figure out just how cold it's going to be. Just know that it is going to be definitely below average. There is complete confidence in that. Just to what extent is going to be the key question here. But we'll see this trough deepen as well as the strength of this low pressure as we go on, as you can see here. And then as we move forward, and there goes my computer again. As we go forward, it has a slightly different look to it. It has a little bit of a negative tilt to it, but still somewhat neutral. You can kind of see it right here. If this were to dig a little bit more, according to the based off the euro, this would probably turn into a bigger snow event and a much more widespread cool down. So the euro is a little bit more on the conservative side with this as of right now. Continue to drag this forward, and the euro, the euro kind of curves a little bit further off to the north and east versus the GFS, which you'll see in a minute here. Cold air still makes it to the south, but not quite as great of an abundance. But this also will result in a little bit weaker of a snow event towards the interior northeast and the Ohio Valley as well. So, like I said, this is the tale of two models here, so there's a lot of moving parts. Towards the back side of this is where I think a lot of the cold air is really going to kick in, and this will be right in time for Christmas. Then there's also these other little short waves that we have to keep an eye on too as this cold air is lingering around. One other thing to note here is that the euro doesn't really have this cold air sitting for long in comparison to some of the other models here. So that's another thing we're going to have to keep a close eye on. Let's go ahead and actually take a look at those other models, shall we? We'll go ahead and take a look at the GFS now mainly. There's a Canadian model we could look at, but in lieu of time, I'm probably going to skip on that. I may make a post about it if it looks too much different. So here is the GFS. We'll move this to about 9,600, 2 hours out actually. And here's our cold air yet again. But look what happens when we roll this forward. Look how much further that digs down. This digs down a lot further south. That cold air makes it a lot further south. And then it's a race between the moisture and the cold. What ends up happening in a lot of situations like this when we have these setups is what the moisture will often end up outrunning the cold, and some of these areas might get stuck with rain before the cold air meets up with that moisture in order for it to turn over into a wintry precipitation. So this could be the case here. So this is going to increase the uncertainty as to what kind of precipitation may lie ahead here. So the only thing I can do is just try and update this every other day, if not every day, and see what happens with it. This probably will most likely even become a nowcast situation where only on the day of will we really know what ends up unfolding. That's the tricky part about trying to forecast winter weather. You look for trends and you just kind of work with what you have after that. But this also ends up resulting in a much bigger snowstorm thanks to how much this trough is deepened. And in turn, I'm thinking more towards the interior northeast. You guys might get walloped. Even towards the northeast coast, you guys could see some big time snow. The temperatures are definitely more than cold enough. The GFS is looking so much colder than the Euro. In fact, it's almost unbelievable. And this is on Christmas Eve too, keep that in mind. So these areas will have a white Christmas here for sure, should this outcome come to fruition. Whether it does or not is a question. And then on top of that, given the fact that we're just about a week out from, just a little over a week out actually from Christmas, it's going to be hard to latch on to that kind of deal. This is Christmas Day. Also have to look for shortwave, little pieces of shortwave energy as we go through the holidays here. So some additional snow could be possible too. But the main talking point kind of shifts from the snow here, because regardless of whether or not you get snow, the temperatures are going to be a huge talking point. So let's go ahead and look at those, shall we? Whether it's the GFS or the Euro, one thing that can be agreed upon without a shadow of a doubt is just how brutally cold it's going to be soon. I'm going to jump this to about 54 hours out, and you can already start to see that frigid air starting to work its way in. And this is before the real blast comes in. This is the 19th. We can already see the negative temperatures hanging around over the Dakotas, over Montana. And this is going to push its way really far to the south, regardless of whichever outcome plays out on these models. So we move this along and we go into the 20th about the same time. This is 18Z on the 20th. We're looking at negative 14, some places even negative 20 in North Dakota. Negative temperatures all the way through South Dakota and most of Montana as well. And we're even starting to get those sneaking into Nebraska. Minnesota are in that as well. And the single-digit temperatures are slowly working their way through southern Nebraska as well. So we push this forward to the 21st, and this is when things really start to take a turn here. So we've watched these below zero temperatures start to overtake almost all of Montana here, getting into Wyoming, overtaking all of South Dakota here, almost overtaking pretty much the entire far northern half of the country. And then the single digits are starting to work their way into Nebraska as well, Iowa, and even Wisconsin now. Towards central Wisconsin, we're barely hanging on to temperatures that are in the teens. And this is looking at the high temperature. Let's not even talk about the low temperature. Then look at how invasive this cold air gets by Tuesday. Look at that. This is Tuesday morning. We are looking at the lows at this point. And now Kansas is starting to get in the negative temperatures now. Almost all of Kansas is looking at either teens or single-digit temperatures. And then even the panhandle of Texas itself is looking at temperatures that'll be in the teens starting out. That'll be starting out that Thursday here. And we'll watch as this spreads further and further outward. These negative temperatures actually work their way through the Missouri Valley, up through the northern parts of the Mississippi Valley, and then into the Ohio Valley too. And these are the lows on Friday morning. And even where I live in Atlanta, we could be looking at lows in the teens starting out, 15 degrees. Have those winter coats and a little bit extra, have those thermals. winter boots, whatever you can get your hands on to keep yourself warm. Definitely do that. Now, don't go in the store cleaning out the firewood. Now, come on. That's one thing I will say. If you're out here in the South, there's no need to wipe all the bread off the shelves. But anyway, we'll move this further and further along here. And it starts to seem like it tries to lighten up here just a bit. But even so, the low temperatures are going to be hanging around. This is a Christmas Day, actually. And this is kind of the first little sniff at a Christmas forecast that I'm going to be putting on the channel, too. This is looking more and more towards the high. A lot of regions over towards the northern Great Lakes, or the westernmost Great Lakes, I should say. Still looking at a lot of places having single-digit temperatures for high, some of them even below zero. Over towards the northeast, we're looking at a lot of teens and 20s. And that stretches its way all the way into the south, to the northern tiers of the southeast. Towards the Appalachians, we could see below freezing temperatures for that whole day. And then even towards the far south, we're looking at temperatures in the 30s and 40s. Even take a look at even Florida. We're looking at some highs that aren't even going to get above 30. We even have some places here that aren't going to get above 50. That's unheard of for Florida. And the frigid air doesn't stop there. We look towards the southern plains. A lot of areas aren't going to get above 30. Some places aren't going to get above 40. In Texas. When's the last time you've seen that? So we'll roll this forward into Monday. The cold air still lingers. But by Tuesday, it looks like we start to see a little bit of a change, like that cold air is trying to move out. But I think this will also be one of the colder days towards the northeast, as this cold air is still trying to funnel in. But we'll have to see how things progress from that point, heading in towards New Year's Eve. Now, one thing to also make note of is the simple fact that we also have to deal with the potential for wind chills. With this storm system digging in such a deep trough, there's going to be plenty of wind energy with this. So if we roll this along here, we're going to see an increase in these wind speeds. And as a result, this will make the temperature feel even colder than what it is. So what we might see happening over the next few days, especially as we get towards the 20th, 21st, is we might see what's called wind chill advisories get issued by the National Weather Service. These are for areas that will end up seeing wind chills 10 to 20 degrees below zero in a lot of these areas. And this could even extend further out to the south and east as this system rolls through with its cold air. As you can see the wind starting to stretch now. We have plenty of areas where we're looking at 20 to 30 knots. So in translation, we're looking at potentially 30, 40 mile per hour wind gusts at the very least, or these are actually sustained winds. So, like I said, this is not going to be this might not be the most pleasant holiday. If you can, try to keep yourself inside, because it's going to be cold. It's going to be brutally cold in more ways than you can imagine. That being said, there's not a whole lot of wind energy with this one in comparison to the last one, thankfully. But even so, this is going to still add insult to injury. So, especially if you end up under an area with a wind advisory, if you can, just stay inside, because you're not going to like how that feels. I can guarantee you this. And the thing is, I work landscaping, so I almost don't have a choice but to be in it. If I want to get paid, that is. That being said, here's the actual index, the wind chill index, right here. We can already see right now, just from the remnants of Diaz, that we have some lingering winds left over, and all throughout North and South Dakota, we have temperatures hanging below zero. We have wind chills hanging below zero. Some places even 20 degrees below zero. And just imagine how much cooler it's going to be as time goes on. Towards the 19th, those negative 20s and even some negative 30s in there, become more and more widespread. And when this coldest air hits, there's some places that are going to be feeling like it's 40 degrees below zero. Absolutely insane. I'm very concerned about this area having wind chill issues. I think wind chill warnings are definitely a big possibility. So this is definitely going to be an area of interest. Just make sure that you have a way to keep your house warm. If you can't, then go to a shelter. Just make sure you don't freeze. And hopefully also there isn't too much precipitation that precedes this, because anything at this point, anything that falls will not only be most likely snow, but it will probably freeze overnight as well. So we'll see what happens with that. But this cold air is no joke, folks. Don't play around with this. And this is toward all right, and then look towards the 23rd too. So we can see some areas here up towards the north seeing 50 below zero for wind chills. But look how far these negative temperatures below zero for wind chill spread. We're looking into the Tennessee Valley now, seeing potentially 14 degrees below zero. This is towards Birmingham. We have a index of 1 degree Fahrenheit. 1 degree. Shoot, even towards my area, where I live in Atlanta, the wind chill on Friday morning is -2. I've lived in Atlanta for almost 28 years. For over 28 years, actually. I've never seen anything like that. And I don't want to. I don't want to experience it either. But even on Saturday morning, this lingers. This is going to linger. This cold air isn't going anywhere too fast. So we look at Christmas. Even at our highest points, a lot of places aren't going to get above the 30s on the wind chill either. So, like I said, it's going to be cold in a lot of places that aren't used to it. Just make sure that you're ready for it. Make sure you have plenty of firewood. Make sure you have make sure you have enough bread and milk. Don't be greedy and take it all from the store at once though. Try to prepare slowly over time. That being said, we go towards the 26th and the 27th. Cold air is not lifting yet. I do think just before the end of the year, it's going to start to improve a little bit. But this is just one model that we're looking at here. When we look at the air temperature from the GFS, going a little too fast. I'm backing out a little too fast, but I'm trying to get to where I need to be here. It's a pretty similar look. There's almost complete confidence that we're going to see some very, very frigid temperatures. Oh, geez, my computer wants to go crazy. My computer hates me right now. It's going crazy. All right, so this is towards the 20th. Actually, we're going to go back to the 19th. And you can see it's almost like a Siberian claw that comes in here. Because this is the cold air you see in Russia or somewhere else in the world, not here. And I can only imagine what it feels like for the people in Canada. But it's a similar look, though. That cold air really just digs in for everybody. And then actually with the GFS being colder, we could see some cooler temperatures heading into the heading throughout Christmas. And then as we look through, I'm trying to find the 23rd because that looks like the trend where the coldest day seems to be trending here. Towards Atlanta, we're looking at potentially 21 degrees Fahrenheit for a high. That's crazy. Still, with the disparity between models, you can't deny that there's a lot of confidence that it's going to be relatively unpleasant to say the least. But here's where I'm thinking things are going to warm up, because when we look towards the GFS for New Year's Eve, we're starting to get those temperatures of the 50s and 60s returning towards the eastern half of the country. But we'll have to watch this next shot of cold air as we will be heading into the new year here. This cold air will be stored up, and then another shot might probably be coming through with the next trough that comes in. On tropical tidbits, I'm not able to look at the wind chill, so that's not anything to really be concerned with, unfortunately, for right now. We'll figure that out in another video, but let's actually go ahead and take a look at the precipitation too. Because honestly, a lot of people are mostly going to be concerned about snowfall in particular, especially for those of us that are looking for a white Christmas, especially in the areas that aren't really used to getting them. And here's where the trends are the most noteworthy right now as well. Because when we look at the GFS and the Euro, I've noticed both of them have the storm tracks trending a little further to the north, I should say. I'm going to jump this to about 60 hours out, and interestingly enough, there's a little shortwave piece of energy right here. I don't think this causes severe weather, but it will cause some unsettled weather. Could this play a factor in what is to come? Hard to say. I'm leaning more towards no, but even so, this does help push some warm air a little bit further to the north. So my thinking is this will deepen just enough of the warm air to maybe keep the cooler air just far enough north to where we have less moisture to work with and a smaller snow event. And I've seen this trend a little bit on both of the models here, but as a result, there's almost like a secondary like shortwave, maybe small snowstorm tries to develop here with the little bit of warm air that's developed and clashing with that cold air. And then what ends up happening is that system gets kicked out. This pulls that low a little bit further to the north because of how strong it is, and it leaves a smaller swath of snow towards the south. Here's that cold air coming in regardless, so that's not going to change anything as far as that's concerned. But what kind of precip you get is going to be more so in question now. We'll move this along, and then we can see that towards the Great Lakes there's a bigger snow event, and then this also trends a little bit further to the north and east after that, thus kind of stiffing anyone over here towards the interior northeast that's looking for snow. And then there's another little shortwave piece of energy that pops up here, but it's going to be rather insignificant. When we compare this to the GFS, however, it's a different picture that we're getting. So I'm going to throw this into a loop here. So here we are looking at the 19th, 20th. Here's that same piece of energy I was talking about here. But this gets out the way rather quick, and then this develops a little bit further as a result. But then there's also a low that pops up here, and this will also allow a little bit of extra moisture to develop here as well, thus increasing the snow potential towards the southeast possibly. And this is where things get tricky because the difference between there's such a vast difference between the two models, and not just the precip but the cold air with it. So it's gonna be tricky. It's gonna be tricky to try to nail down how this is gonna unfold exactly. After that, it's pretty similar. Same little shortwave pieces of energy. Looks like they're Alberta Clippers. And then our first look at the New Year's Eve forecast. Again, we start to warm back up, and we're leaning towards a little bit more of a severe weather threat, if anything else, as we look into the morning of New Year's Eve. I'm thinking that a shortwave piece of energy pops up here, and we end up sparking off some showers and thunderstorms. Don't think the severe weather threat's going to be too significant with this, but it's still something that has to be watched. And then we'll watch that leave out. But keep in mind the New Year's forecast is pretty much in no man's land when we're about, I'd say, 300 hours out or so. So good luck trying to nail that. So good luck to anyone that wants to try to nail that down, as of right now at least. That's the end of this video, though. I know this was a long one. Like I said, timestamp will be in the description. Hope you did enjoy this video. If you did, of course, definitely drop me a like. And also share the video. Help this get out there to the people that need it. And if you haven't subscribed already and you're enjoying the content. It's free and it doesn't hurt. Go right ahead. If you have any questions about the forecast, let me know in the comments. And other than that, this has been Metalhead Weatherman. I'll see you guys with a video in the morning.